Alpha lipoic acid and cellular order. One of the quiet problems many retirees and people in general face is something that doesn't get talked about much in everyday conversation at all. Now, a person can still be active, still thinking clearly, still living a good life, and yet feel like the body is it just doesn't produce the same steady energy that it did in younger days. And a lot of times people just write off and say, oh, you're just older. That's it. Well, it plays a little bit of it, but aging is like an air filter, I say. You need to stop and clean it, So now, muscles recover slowly and things take longer. Mental sharpness may come and go. It's not always an illness. Often simply that the system inside the body are no longer working together the way they once did in unison. Many people assume this is, like I said, just aging and nothing can be done. There's just give up. But as we go back, older physicians and researchers tended to look at the body a little differently. They believed the body was a system of organized relationships, not just separate ones. Now, when that order inside the cells begins to weaken in the mitochondria, the person notices it at first as fatigue, tiredness, slower recovery, and a general loss of resilience. That older way of thinking brings us to a substance that many people have never heard of, yet has been studied for decades and decades. It is called alpha lipoic acid. Now that name may sound complicated, and it sounds like, what, acid, but it is a natural substance. Now, the idea behind it is just very simple. Alpha lipoic acid, it helps the tiny energy centers, the little generators that we call them, the mitochondria, but it helps the cells inside keep their order, their structure. Now those little engines that we talk about in the cell, often as the mitochondria, they're responsible for turning food into usable energy for the body. Now, earlier researchers paid very close attention to this relationship between nutrients and cellular energy. Scientists like Denham Harmon and physicians such as Bert Berkson, they spent years studying how certain compounds help maintain balance inside the body's metabolic system. Now, some of their work, and Dr. Bert Berkson, it was incredible how what he used with ALA. And that's what we call alpha lipoic acid short. Now, their work suggested that the body is constantly trying to maintain order inside the cell. And when that order begins to slip, the entire organism begins to feel it. What makes alpha lipoic acid interesting is that it works in both water and fat environments inside the body. That means it can move across different cellular spaces and assist in maintaining stability in many places at once. It also works closely with other nutrients. The body depends on it, including minerals like magnesium and trace minerals such as copper, as we were talking about. When those relationships are balanced, energy production tends to stabilize. Now, retirees often reach a point where they begin to realize that the body is not simply something that runs automatically. It's more like a project that requires steady management, as we've talked about. If you ignore the maintenance long enough, systems begin to fail and they just fall out of order. But if you bring the right supports back into line, the system often begins to stabilize. This is where the idea of cellular order becomes important. The body does not just need calories, it needs the right conditions for those calories to be converted into usable energy. Sleep plays an important role in that. Sunlight plays a role, minerals play a role, and certain compounds like alpha lipoic acid appear to support that internal coordination. Alpha lipoic acid is so important. It impressed me so much. I have written a book about it called Alpha Lipoic Acid. It's based on what Dr. Denham Harmon and what Dr. Bert Berkson did with restoring livers, restoring organs. It was just incredible. ALA supports, it helps you to lower blood sugar. Over in Europe, they use it instead of using metformin in many cases. So it plays such an important role. One of the natural things where you can get ALA is you can get it from liver and many other things like that too. But this reminds me of a story, and let me just tell you a brief story, a small story that it kind of helps illustrate this idea. Now, back in the middle of the 20th century, there was quite a laboratory researcher working in the Midwest. Now, he was not a famous figure at all, but most people outside the community didn't really know about him, just a few people. But he spent years studying the ways cells produce energy. One afternoon, a visiting physician from a nearby town came to see his little laboratory. The doctor had been treating patients for decades and had noticed something that puzzled him. Some people seem to regain strength after illness faster than others. It was kind of a remarkable story, and he wanted to lay eyes on what had been happening. Now, they were not necessarily younger, they were not necessarily stronger, yet their bodies seemed to recover their energy more quickly. The researcher listened carefully, then he walked the physician over to a microscope and showed him a slide of living cells. Now, under the lens, the tiny structures inside the cells were constantly moving, exchanging energy, maintaining a kind of internal rhythm. The researcher explained that these small little engines inside the cell required certain helpers to, properly function. Vitamins were part of that system. Minerals were part of it, but there were also compounds the body used as metabolic bridges, substances that helped energy move through the cellular machinery without becoming blocked. Alpha lipoic acid was one of those helpers. The physician stood quietly for a moment looking through the microscope. Then he said something simple that stayed with the researcher for years and years. He said, "So the body doesn't need just fuel, it needs organization." The researcher nodded. "Exactly," he said. "Energy without order doesn't help much at all." The physician went back to his small town practice with a slightly different way of thinking about health. He began paying more attention to nutrition, to rest, to the small supports that keep the body's energy systems working smoothly. Now, over time, he noticed that patterns and things that got out of organization got out of order. And he started looking at patients who maintained those supports of order, often recovered their strength more steadily than those who ignored them totally. Now, that story may sound very simple, all that, but the lesson behind it is important. The body's not just burning calories all the time to be burning. It is maintaining order across trillions of cells every single day. When that order is supported through proper minerals, adequate protein, and good overall sleep, sunlight, your D3, and as I say, occasional fasting. And compounds like alpha lipoic acid, the body often responds by restoring steadier energy and resilience. Now, retirement in many ways is the perfect time to begin paying attention to these systems, as we say, and we keep learning about this. A person finally has the time to observe what helps the body work better. I can't tell you enough. I'm keep on preaching this. Stay attentive to your body. Now, instead of reacting to illness, like the advertisement wants you to do, cram a pill, after it appears, retirees need to begin acting more like managers of your body, of your own health, responsible for it. That doesn't mean chasing every new trend or supplement. It means paying attention to the fundamentals that have been quietly understood for generations. Balanced minerals, clean water with electrolytes, good sleep, movement during the day, sunlight on the skin, and nutrients that support the cellular systems that keep the body running. The body, as we have learned and run, it we need to remember it keeps a record over decades, but it also has a remarkable ability to stabilize when given a chance. In the right conditions is the chance. Retirees, contrary to what modern culture sometimes suggests, this is not decline. It's the second act of a life well lived and with experience that you can showcase and help others and help the younger generations to show them what steadiness and responsibility is. Now, health is not about chasing perfection. It's about maintaining order in the systems that sustain life and in what God gave us. And that quiet work done day after day tends to produce strength that lasts far longer than most people ever expect. Now, I don't have all this figured out. I'm still working on it myself, so let's keep moving forward on this journey together. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Learn more about alpha lipoic acid, and I'd just like to invite you to take a look at my book. My book is for it should be a cornerstone, and that's what I've tried to make all my books a cornerstone. I used to be kind of overwhelmed when I would walk into the vitamin shop. I said, well, I need to have a pamphlet or something over every supplement or something that can help. But I've done a lot of research, and this is a cornerstone book. This is a book that you can take and put in your library. And all of my books, these two, magnesium and copper connection, but especially alpha lipoic acid on our subject today. And it offers so much. I mean, it's just an amazing supplement that can be taken. It's an amazing molecule that has a lot of potential to help someone, and it has a proven track record. And anyway, my book would be an excellent starting point for anyone and a cornerstone in your library of supplement knowledge and healthy living, optimal health. That's what it's all about. And the key to my book is I have chapters that have topics about what it can do for you, blood sugar, heart health, how it can reduce it helps strengthen the heart, it helps strengthen good cholesterol, and then it helps lower the bad cholesterol. It helps regulate blood sugar. It is so important. It is so important for liver health. And what Dr. Burke, I encourage you to research Dr. Burke Berkson. But all these things, when we talk about research and things to look at, I have a complete chapter of nothing but references. Every one of my chapter is backed up with references, and this is a good launching point for you to go and do your own research. I went through a lot of the first level of discouragement that the naysayers put out there. They put that out there for everything, vitamin C, all the supplements. But I've gotten down to case studies. Like I said in the video earlier, we were talking David Sinclair, who is a leading scientist researching longevity in life. He said that one of the things that impressed him about one of the early researchers about longevity was Denham Harmon, and he said that after he had passed away, his family said the one thing that he took all of his life was about 300 milligrams of alpha lipoic acid. So these are things that are just amazing. You can research Dr. Burke Berkson. I have all this in this book, and I think it should be a complimentary book in anybody's library, and it just helps get down to the basic research that you need to move forward and go your own direction. So I invite you to take a look at it. It's on Amazon. And anyway, I appreciate your time and look forward to continuing sharing with you, and we're sharing together. And like I say, I don't have all this figured out, but I'm a good researcher, and I want to share that with you. And I thank you very much.